The grand sweep of European history is marked by countless upheavals and moments of innovation. Beginning with the birth of democracy in ancient Greece, and including the sweeping conquests of Alexander the Great, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, the Crusades, the Black Death of the Middle Ages, the French Revolution, and the emergence of Napoleon. These events finally culminated in the World Wars, each having shaped Europe into what it is today. The pivotal moments that defined each era are not merely tales of the past. They were decisive turning points that changed the destiny of humanity. The panorama of European history is filled with turning points, but at its very beginning stands ancient Greece. It was here that the seeds of democracy were sown, and where philosophy, art, and science flourished. Ancient Greece stands as the starting point of European civilization and the wellspring that influenced countless empires and ideas that followed. Now, let us delve into the brilliant story of ancient Greece. Around 3000 BCE, the radiant Minoan civilization blossomed on the island of Crete. The grandeur of the palace of Knossos still gives us a glimpse of that ancient glory. Yet, by 1400 BCE, the Minoans faded into history as the Mycenaeans invaded Crete and took their place. But around 1100 BCE, a combination of invasions by the Sea Peoples, drought, and social turmoil led to the simultaneous collapse of not only the Mycenaean civilization, but also the Hittite Empire, Egypt's new kingdom, and other societies of the Eastern Mediterranean. Afterwards, the Greek world entered a dark age that lasted for about 300 years. The scripts, palaces, and splendid pottery of the Mycenaean era disappeared, and society broke apart into small, scattered communities. Yet, at the end of this long, dark tunnel, Greece once again greeted a new dawn. In the 8th century BCE, the Greek Dark Age came to an end, and a new era began. During this time, city-states known as polis began to emerge across Greece. Among them, Athens and Sparta rose as the central powers of the Greek world. Athens is often seen as a symbol of democracy, but in truth, its beginnings were monarchical. The legendary hero Theseus, who defeated the Minotaur, is a figure from this royal era. As time passed, Athens shifted to an aristocracy, where power was held by the archons and the council of nobles. Under aristocratic rule, Athens unified the region of Attica and grew into a powerful city-state. However, conflicts between nobles and commoners, and loans secured against one's own body, led many citizens into slavery, causing social unrest. To resolve these internal issues, Solon was elected archon in 594 BCE. He introduced various reforms, most famously the Seisak Theia, canceling debts and banning loans secured on a person. Solon also transformed Athens' economy, encouraging the export of products like olive oil, which spurred economic growth. He expanded the powers of the assembly, promoting political participation among commoners and easing social conflict. After completing his reforms, Solon left Athens for 10 years of travel abroad. In Solon's absence, Pisistratos emerged, establishing a one-man rule supported by the people. Pisistratos strengthened central authority, encouraged commerce and trade, and launched public works to gain popular support. He was able to pass power to his son, Hippias. However, Hippias ruled oppressively, earning the resentment of the Athenians. Eventually, Hippias was expelled, and Athens transitioned from tyranny back to democracy. Cleisthenes, who led the expulsion of Hippias, became the leader of Athens and enacted major reforms. He dismantled the kinship-based tribal system, dividing Attica into 3 regions and mixing them to form 10 new tribes. This prevented the concentration of power within specific classes and established a balanced system of citizen representation, while also strengthening military organization. He introduced the demos as an administrative unit, allowing all citizens to participate in politics, and created the Council of 500 to share real power with the assembly. To prevent the abuse of power, he instituted ostracism, laying the groundwork for democracy. During the age when Greek city-states, or polis, were growing one by one, Sparta took a path completely different from Athens. While Athens encouraged trade, the arts, and crafts, building an open and flexible culture, Sparta devoted everything to strength, discipline, and military power. Sparta's origins trace back to around 1000 BCE, when the Dorians, who had overthrown the Mycenaean civilization, settled in this land. As a conquering people, they revered force, and Spartan society valued the life of a warrior above all else. Interestingly, Sparta was formed by the union of two villages, so it maintained a unique system with two kings. These two kings kept each other in check, serving as a safeguard against tyranny. But Sparta's political structure sometimes faced crises from civil war and chaos. It was then that Lycurgus appeared, a lawgiver who completely transformed Sparta's system and is called the father of Sparta. Lycurgus's reforms were based on strict equality and self-restraint. At age 7, all boys left home to undergo harsh military training called agoge, growing up as warriors. Citizens dined together in communal mess halls known as syssitia to strengthen unity. Gold and silver coins were banned, and only iron money was used to prevent luxury and the concentration of wealth. Even houses, clothing, and furniture were standardized to pursue perfect equality. Women were no exception. Spartan women received physical training like men and had equal rights to inherit and own property. Believing that strong women would give birth to strong warriors, Sparta granted women high status. But this equality was reserved only for Spartan citizens, the Spartiates. They made up just 5 to 10% of the population, monopolizing politics and the military. The rest of the people were divided into the Perioikoi and the Helots, the slave class. The Perioikoi were free but had no political rights, while the Helots were people from conquered lands like Laconia and Messenia, tied to the land and forced to farm under harsh oppression. The oppression was so severe that Spartan boys were even required to kill a Helot as a rite of passage into adulthood. Spartan citizens devoted themselves solely to military and political affairs, leaving all economic work to the Helots. This system, where a small elite ruled over the majority, made society unstable, and Helot revolts were frequent. In the end, Sparta became famous as a military power, but its extreme system also brought many difficulties. In the 8th century BCE, the Greek world faced rapid population growth, limited land, and the search for new trading opportunities, turning their eyes to the sea. It was during this era that Greeks began founding countless colonies along the coasts of the Mediterranean and Black Sea, leaving their mark on the ancient world. The creation of these colonies was not simply an extension of the mainland's control, but the birth of new, independent city-states. Rooted in the Greeks' unique sense of autonomy and independence, these new colonies maintained their own identities, free from subjugation to the homeland. There were two main types of Greek colonies. First, the permanent settlements we commonly recognize as colonies. Second, the emporia trading posts, where Greeks and locals gathered for vibrant economic activity. Emporia became commercial hubs, international marketplaces where diverse peoples and cultures met and exchanged goods. The earliest wave of colonization began on the island of Sicily, with Syracuse as its most famous city. Syracuse soon grew into the leading center of Sicily and southern Italy, a region known as Magna Graecia. Over time, Greek colonies spread as far as Massalia in France, and even to the shores of the Black Sea. The Black Sea colonies exported timber and leather, while importing olive oil and agricultural products from the Greek mainland, creating mutual prosperity. Especially in Ionia, on the Anatolian coast, cities like Miletus became wealthier and more cultured than the Greek homeland itself, thanks to fertile land and a growing population. Here, thinkers like Thales and many other philosophers and scientists emerged, giving rise to pre-Socratic Greek philosophy. But in the 6th century BCE, the Achaemenid Persian invasions brought many colonies under Persian rule. In response, these Greek colonies rebelled, sparking the conflicts that would eventually lead to the Greco-Persian Wars. At the end of the 6th century BCE, the Mediterranean world was swept into a vortex of dramatic upheaval. While Athens, Sparta, and countless other poleis were flourishing in mainland Greece, the Greek colonies of Ionia, along the Anatolian coast to the east, suffered under the harsh rule of the Persian Empire. In 499 BCE, the Ionian cities could endure no more and rose up in rebellion against Persian oppression. Fury at the tyranny imposed by Persian-appointed rulers spread like wildfire, and even mainland cities such as Athens and Eretria joined in, boldly supporting the revolt by burning the Persian satrapy at Sardis. Athens dispatched a fleet of 30 ships to actively aid the rebellion, but in 494 BCE, at the Battle of Lade, the Ionian alliance was ultimately crushed by the overwhelming might of Persia. Though the Ionian revolt ended in failure, it deeply angered Darius, the great king of Persia. he resolved not to overlook the Greek world any longer. In 492 BCE, Darius sent his son-in-law Mardonius to conquer Greece, but an unexpected storm brought the expedition to ruin. Darius grew even more enraged and sent envoys to the Greek city-states, demanding that they offer earth and water. The demand for earth and water was, in essence, a call for surrender. Athens put the envoys on trial and executed them, while Sparta threw them into a well. At last, Darius raised a mighty army to punish Athens and Sparta, and so began the epic Persian Wars. In 490 BCE, King Darius of the Persian Empire, burning with vengeance, dispatched a massive army toward mainland Greece. At the forefront were Datis and Artaphernes, both from Media. It is said that the Persian fleet they commanded numbered as many as 600 ships. The Persian forces set sail from the coast of Cilicia, conquering Rhodes, Samos, and Naxos in succession as they advanced. They soon destroyed Eretria, their first target on the Greek mainland, and marched toward Athens. The Persian fleet turned south, landing at Marathon, just 25 kilometers from Athens. At that time, Athens was in a dire situation. They requested aid from Sparta, but Sparta could not move due to the Carneia festival and internal strife. In the end, Athens had to face Persia alone, receiving support only from the nearby city of Plataea. On September 12, 490 BCE, tension filled the Marathon plain from early morning. On the eastern coast, the numerically superior Persian army set up camp, while on the western hills, the allied forces of Athens and Plataea quietly took their positions. The Athenians numbered about 10,000, while the Persians had between 15,000 and 20,000 soldiers. For several days, the two armies watched each other in a tense standoff. As the Persians, being an expeditionary force, began to run low on supplies, they planned to send part of their troops by ship to launch a surprise attack on Athens. Sensing this movement, Athenian commander Miltiades decided to attack while the main Persian force was weakened. The Athenians maintained a phalanx formation, thinning their center and reinforcing both wings. This was a strategy to lure the Persians into the center and then encircle them. At Miltiades' command, the Athenians charged across the plain. Armed with bronze armor, helmets, shields, and spears, the Greek hoplites overwhelmed the Persians, who relied on archers and light infantry. In close combat, the Persian archers were powerless, and the Greeks' heavy armor proved devastating. Early in the battle, the Athenian center was pushed back, but the reinforced wings pressed hard on the Persian flanks, eventually causing the Persian center and right to collapse. The surrounded Persians fell into chaos and began to flee, with many perishing in the marshes and along the shore. Only about 192 Athenians died, while the Persians suffered a crushing defeat, losing around 6,400 men. The remaining Persian forces escaped by ship, and the Athenians, in preparation for a possible attack, ran the 30 kilometers back to Athens to defend their city. This story is the origin of the modern marathon. Through this battle, Athens preserved its freedom and independence, becoming the victor of the First Persian War. After the Battle of Marathon, Darius of Persia prepared for revenge, but soon passed away. His son, Xerxes, became king and, determined to fulfill his father's will, set out to invade Greece. In 480 BCE, Xerxes of the Persian Empire spent 4 years gathering troops from 46 nations and built a massive bridge of ships across the Hellespont to march his army west. More than 100,000 Persian soldiers marched south through Thrace and Macedonia, while a fleet of thousands of ships advanced along the coast. In response, the Greek forces moved to defend the narrow pass of Thermopylae. Thermopylae was a natural fortress, a narrow passage between sea and mountains, impossible for a vast army to cross all at once. King Leonidas of Sparta led 300 elite Spartans and about 7,000 allied troops from Thespiae, Thebes, Phocis, and other cities to hold the pass. Upon reaching Thermopylae, Xerxes demanded their surrender and waited 4 days for their answer. Leonidas famously replied, "Come and take them," and the battle began. On the first day, the Persians unleashed a rain of arrows from 5,000 archers, then sent in infantry. Even their elite immortals could not break through the Greek hoplites' defenses. On the second day, the Greeks again held firm, turning back the Persian onslaught and gaining the upper hand. But on the third day, everything changed. A local trader revealed a secret mountain path to the Persians, allowing them to outflank the Greeks. The Phocian troops guarding the path were defeated, and the defense of the pass was rendered meaningless. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Leonidas ordered most of the Greek forces to retreat. He remained behind with 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans, choosing to fight to the death. Leonidas and his men fought valiantly to the end, and the pass of Thermopylae was stained with their blood. After Leonidas and his band of warriors fell heroically at Thermopylae, the Greek defensive line collapsed. With the line broken, the Greek navy at Artemisium also abandoned their defense and withdrew. Strategic strongholds like Boeotia and Attica fell into Persian hands, and cities such as Thespiae and Plataea were left in ruins by pillage and fire. Unopposed, the Persians went on to occupy Athens and set fire to the Parthenon temple. Seeking a swift end to the war, the Persians then chose to fight a decisive naval battle. They led their entire fleet toward the Peloponnese, while the Greek navy gathered for a final showdown in the Straits of Salamis. Themistocles of Athens judged that only by luring the Persians into the narrow straits could the Greeks win, and he succeeded in drawing in their fleet. The massive Persian fleet could not maintain formation in the cramped waters, and as their center was breached, they were decisively defeated. Watching his fleet be destroyed, Xerxes was so shocked that he withdrew to his homeland, leaving Mardonius with part of the army to maintain Persian influence in Greece. After Xerxes' withdrawal, most Greek city-states remained on the defensive, but Athens took a different stance. Mardonius tried to force Athens out of the Greek alliance by offering peace, but when Athens refused, he burned the city once again. In response, Athens persuaded Sparta to form an expeditionary force of 30,000 troops, avenged themselves, and killed Mardonius in battle. And in Ionia as well, they defeated the Persian navy and expelled Persian forces from both mainland Greece and Ionia.